ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Sunday Night Football overtime. Steelers, Dolphins. I want to start off by talking about the 50th anniversary of the perfect Dolphins team, the only perfect team in NFL history. Dolphins get the win tonight on the anniversary celebration, 16-10. Snap a losing streak that spanned 2 games, I believe, for this Dolphins football team. Start out the season, actually 3 games. So they started out this season 3-0, if I'm not mistaken, and lost to the Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday Night Football, and lost 2 of that same night, and have not won a football game since. Lost to the Jets, lost to the Vikings, and now they have gotten it done here, making Tua 3-1 on the season as a starter. Did not finish that Cincinnati game, obviously, but we'll come back to tonight's game in a second. 50 years since the last perfect team in the NFL, the only perfect team in the NFL. And I thought it was pretty cool, man. Pretty cool to see those guys come out to midfield for the coin toss. Pretty cool to see those other guys up in the press box celebrating the history of the 50-year anniversary. I thought the intro into the game was dope. You know, I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but what an accomplishment, what a feat. And it's always good to hear those guys. Those guys take pride every single year when that last team loses a game. And the Eagles are the lone team standing right now. They pop that bottle of champagne and they call each other up and say, hey, we did it again. I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but what an accomplishment. 14-game seasons back then really doesn't matter. I mean, the Patriots have been the closest, obviously, back in 2007, but they were denied. So anyway, I digress. Dolphins get the win. It looked like they were going to boat race the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight. That first possession was ultra impressive. I honestly didn't love the conversation, and I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't love the conversation surrounding Tua tonight. You know, they kept talking about him as if he was some type of charity case, you know, like he didn't know what he was signing up for. You know, there was a lot of discussion about every time he got, oh, that's cringeworthy, he took a hit. He's playing football, dude. Like, what do you want him to do? Yep, he could slide. I've seen guys slide and get their blocks knocked off and their head launched backwards, hit the ground, and get knocked out anyway. There's so many different ways you can hurt yourself. Football is a contact sport. Some say it's a collision sport. It's hard to avoid getting hit or getting hurt, or sometimes both. And so he's going to get hit. And Tua, I think most guys will tell you, if I'm going to play the game, I'm going to play it the only way I know how, and that's balls to the wall, giving you 110%. If I got to put my body on the line, I'm going to put my body on the line. And I guess they were expecting him to slide every time contact was imminent, and Tua would have none of it. So I really didn't love the discussion surrounding Tua. He's a football player. Let the man go out and play football in peace. That said, Kenny Pickett was doing the same thing, running around, trying to make plays. I didn't hear anybody talking about concussions with him. He had a concussion just last week. So anyway, and they brought Kenny Pickett up. They did talk about his concussion and how he was able to come back and play and this, that, and the third. But every time he ran, they didn't hold their collective breaths, right? Anyway, enough of that. Big win for the Dolphins tonight because, again, these Steelers, they're a scrappy bunch, but they're not a good football team. And they fail to score points. It's the same thing we talked about last year, but at least last year there was this guy, you may have heard of him, named Ben Roethlisberger. And even though he was past his prime and you could tell that this was it for him, like literally this is it, there was still that sense that, hey, it's Ben Roethlisberger. Be careful. I'm not saying that he's out here slinging the thing, throwing it 55 times, and he's going to put up, 417 yards of offense, and he's going to do you. But just be careful. It's still Ben Roethlisberger. Still respect what this man is capable of. That's not the case anymore. You know, this offense stinks. It stunk last year, but at least you have Ben Roethlisberger. It stinks this year, and you've got Kenny Pickett. And the young fella is a gamer, but he continues to turn the football over, which is what you expect from young fellas, but he's turning it over at an alarming rate. We'll get to the Steelers and Kenny Pickett and all of those things in a second. I want to continue with the Dolphins. The initial drive of the game, it led you to believe that, oh my God, the Steelers are in trouble tonight. And they had opportunities to really bust this thing open. They scored on their first 3 possessions, but it ultimately was a touchdown and 2 field goals. And that really allowed the Steelers to stay in this ball game when it could have gotten really, really ugly for the Steelers in this football game. I thought they ran it effectively. They're starting to really look like, you know, those outside zone running teams like the 49ers and the Rams and the Vikings. They're starting to look like those teams. This offense is starting to come together. You're seeing that same concept over the middle of the football field with guys running wide open in this offense. So it's starting to work the way that it's supposed to. We know about Waddle. We know about Hill, but they've got some unsung heroes on the team as well. A couple of guys that, you know, they step up. One of them is Trenton Sherfield, you know, guy that played with the Cardinals and the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken, and you know, steps up, makes plays, moves the chains. I thought that Mostert was outstanding tonight. I'm still waiting for that breakout Chase Edmonds game. Still haven't gotten that yet, but no, he's a problem potentially in the future. Mike Gesicki, I'm still waiting on him to have a major impact. You know, haven't really seen what I thought I was going to see from him in a contract year to this point. Still waiting on him to have a breakout game or stretch for that matter, because I know he's fully capable of that. But all in all, it was a solid performance by the Dolphins. I still think they've got a little ways to go as far as offensively being consistent. This is Tua's first game back, so you expect that. You got to give the Steelers a little bit of credit too. They're a veteran bunch over there that they're not going to just lay down and allow you to go up and down the field. We saw that with Tampa Bay last week. We saw it again today. They have their moments, but they had opportunities to make plays, and they just didn't make them. So the Dolphins were not as sharp after that opening salvo for the remainder of the game. And for the second time today, I watched the head coach make what I thought was an irresponsible decision regarding his team and deciding to forego the opportunity to put points on the scoreboard via a field goal to go for it on a 4th down situation and failed to do so and have it almost cost their team the game in this case. In the other case, it did cost their team the game, or at least I felt like it was a huge part of the reason they lost the game. I mean, and then when you see how the game ended, I'm talking about Jacksonville and Doug Peterson and the Jaguars being up 4, it's 4th and 1. They decide to go for it. They get stuffed. They could have gone up 7 at 20-13. It would have changed the whole tenor of the football game. Instead, they get stuffed. They don't get it. The Giants ultimately score a touchdown later on in the game, take the lead 20-17. And now instead of it being a tie ball game, you're down 3. So the Giants are playing it different. They're starting to bleed clock. And you have to play it different. The Giants go down, get another field goal. They're up 23-17, and now you need a touchdown instead of just needing a field goal to tie the game and a touchdown to win it. It changes everything. I didn't love that decision then. I don't want to hear about analytics. You see the way the game's going. You understand not a lot of points have been scored, and not a lot more are going to be scored. You have to understand where you are in the context of that particular ball game. What the analytics says is just strictly numbers. They're not actually taking into consideration the actual ball game, the way it's going, and how many more trips you're probably going to have or have had in this game into the red zone. And for the Dolphins, that one was a little bit different than the decision made by the Jags, but it was, third quarter, early third quarter. As a matter of fact, I think it was the first possession of the third quarter. So they're thinking, we got a chance to really put the Steelers, who are, we'll call them scoring challenged. All right. They are the worst scoring team in football. You saw it again tonight. They only put up 10 points. you didn't need to go for a touchdown there. You have to, again, this is what the things you have to take into consideration. The Steelers aren't going to score a lot of points. So a field goal puts you up 9, 2 scores. That goes a hell of a long way playing against the Steelers team that just doesn't like to score points. They are offensively challenged. Understand your opponent, understand time and the context, and take the points. Go up 9. Force the Steelers to have to score not once, but twice. Because of that, they ended up being in a ball game in which they easily could have lost if Kenny Pickett decides to run. And I think he could have run and gotten out of bounds instead of throwing that football to Noah Igbenogany. I think if he runs, he's going to pick up 15 yards and he's going to get out of bounds. And now you're fighting for your life against the Steelers team that you shouldn't even be in this predicament against. That said, that was the first possession of the third quarter. There was a ton of football thereafter, and this offense, for whatever reason, could not get it going. And that's got to be frustrating. Got to be frustrating. They don't have TJ Watt. You got to find a way to exploit them. But you get it done. And the defense was a huge part of the reason why. 3 interceptions of Kenny Pickett in this game. The Javon Holland pick felt like that was going to be the one to put it away, put you in a position to score some more points, and ultimately you did not. The Noah Igbenogany pick was the one to seal the deal. The defense was solid. You did what you needed to do in terms of stopping the run for the most part. You eliminated any big plays because against a team that struggles to score, the last thing you want to do is give up big plays that lead to points. Make them earn everything they get, because that's part of the reason why they are one of the worst scoring teams in football, or the worst in football, is because they can't consistently string together positive plays that put them in a position to get points on the scoreboard, i.e. Kenny Pickett throwing 3 picks in this game. Every time you force him to snap the football, there's a chance he could throw it to the wrong color jersey. And he seems like a guy that has no problems potentially leading the league in interceptions this season, despite not starting the first 3 or 4 games of the season, probably the first 3. At this point, the Dolphins should feel fortunate, honestly speaking, that they're even 4-3 right now. Get the win tonight. This was a game they had to win. This was not optional. If you cannot beat the Steelers at home when you're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the perfect 72 Dolphins, then you have a problem, and you don't deserve to be in the discussion with the, 5-2 Jets. Yes, I'll say it again, the 5-2 New York Jets and the 5-1 Buffalo Bills. But winning this game puts you at 4-3, puts you right in the mix in the division, and more importantly, keeps you on track where you need to be. But this was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but a win's a win's a win in the National Football League. I can't stress that enough. Look, I've already said this. First of all, Mike Tomlin, you say what you want about him, from game management, clock management, all of that good stuff. Say what you want about him. Mike Tomlin's a hell of a coach. And I think these are the types of seasons that kind of bear that out. And, we've always joked about, damn, how good of a coach did he have to be to have all of those personalities, Martavis Bryant, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, all these guys in the same locker room. How was he able to hold this thing together for as long as he did? It is amazing. The streak that he has, it's going to come to an end this year, but the streak that he currently has of consecutive seasons without a losing season to start his career, this guy's never had a losing season or a season under 500. I mean, those are the same thing, right? It sucks that he can't go 8-8 anymore. You have to, either be over 500 or under it unless you have a tie. And I think he's honestly going to finish under 500 this year. But the fact that they remain in ball games easily could have and probably should have beaten the Jets. That's a game that you have no business losing, but they did. You beat Tampa last week, and that win doesn't look as impressive now after seeing what Carolina ultimately did today to the Buccaneers. But still, you beat them. You were the ones that kind of sent them into that free fall mode. They compete their asses off in this game, have a chance to win. Actually shocked at how close this game was. I never thought they would have an opportunity with the football, with a chance to win and get as close as they ultimately did. But they did. And you have to credit them for that. That said, one of my biggest pet peeves with the Steelers, and it has been this way for the last couple of years, is they don't run the football effectively enough. Last year, Ben Roethlisberger could have used the crutch of the run game. It was pathetic, their rushing attack. I look at their offense this year, and I kind of feel very similar about their ability to run the football. It's not as bad as it was last year, but it's not that much better either. And you look at Kenny Pickett's numbers. What did he throw the football tonight? 44 times for Kenny Pickett. He's a rookie. And unlike rookies on bad teams where you're down big and you're at the end of the game and you're spreading teams out and you're throwing it around the yard because, hell, you're down by 3 scores. Not going to be running it in those situations. This is not what the Steelers are. Outside of the Buffalo game where they got shellacked 38-3 and were down 31-3 at halftime. Outside of that game, they've been in just about every single ball game that they've played. The New England game, the Jets game, this game, last week's game against Tampa. They've been in just about every single ball game. The Cincinnati game, week 1, obviously they won that game. There's no excuse for Kenny Pickett throwing the football 44 times. Is essentially what I'm trying to make. In a game where you were trailing by 6 the entire second half, the score was exactly the same as it was when the game ended, as we had no points in the second half. It was 16-10 at halftime. There was no reason for Kenny Pickett to have to throw the ball 44 times, except that you don't run it that effectively. What did Najee Harris end up with tonight? 17 carries for 65 yards. The Warren kid, 2 carries, 7 yards. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And it's because of that you constantly find yourself having to rely on a rookie quarterback to sling it around the yard. And I'm actually disappointed, and I shouldn't be, because it's a rookie quarterback. So I'm going to expect him to not be as in tune offensively with his weapons quite yet, because he's still learning the offense, the nuances of his receivers, timing and rhythm, all of these things. And again, he did not start the regular season as the guy. It was about the 3rd game of the season that he took over as the starter. So this is still a work in progress. That said, young guys tend to make mistakes. And the more you throw it, the more prone you are to exposing him to a mistake. Hence the 7 interceptions that he's already thrown this season. And I think he's only started, again, 3 games. Now, I could be wrong, and it could be 4 games at this point. We are 7 games in now. But I'm pretty sure he came in that Jets game. That was week 3. And then he started the following week, if I'm not mistaken, at Buffalo. I think that was week number 4. Might have been week 5. Either way, 7 interceptions in roughly 4 games is what we're going to call it. And they're going to be a lot more. 2 touchdown passes. Had a touchdown pass to George Pickens tonight and 7 interceptions. 3 interceptions again for the second time this season. He had a 3 interception game, if I'm not mistaken, versus Buffalo, and a 3 interception game again tonight. Threw an interception last week against Tampa, despite the win. And so here we are. If I'm not mistaken, it was 1 interception against Buffalo. It was 3 against the Jets. And he didn't even start the game against the Jets. And he threw like 3 picks in that game. Anyway, 44 pass attempts is too many for a rookie quarterback in a game where you only lose by 6. And it's not like you were down big and he had to sling it. You were down 6 the entire second half. That's a losing formula, if you ask me. That's just my personal opinion. I'd like to see my rookie quarterback throw it less. I will tell you, I like Kenny Pickett. I like his mobility. I like his poise and his moxie. And these mistakes are going to happen. They just are. Rookie quarterbacks, you'd love to say, well, what about this guy who came in, took the league by storm? Or what about that guy? Not everybody's the same. But I like what I see. He doesn't look overwhelmed. He looks like a guy that's 24 years old, that's played a lot of football, that is experienced enough, and I think he's going to assimilate himself well to the Steelers. What I'm most disappointed in has nothing to do with Kenny Pickett. It's really these receivers. And I like I said before, I shouldn't be that disappointed because they got a rookie quarterback. And before that, it was Mitchell Trubisky throwing them the football. There's only so much that these receivers are going to do. But even then, I haven't been all that blown away with anybody but Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, to be honest with you, at the receiver position. And they got talent. Way too much for them to be struggling offensively the way that they're struggling. And I've heard a lot of complaints about the offensive coordinator. I think they are valid. I just told you Kenny Pickett threw it 44 times, and they're having trouble running the football. With all of the weapons that you have on this team, all of the talent that you have, there's got to be, different ways to get guys involved and kind of take some pressure off the quarterback position and some more creative ways to run the football. There's got to be. So I'd say that the whole offensive coordinator discussion and the gripe there is valid, because I don't love what I see from the Steelers on a weekly basis, and I didn't love what I saw from them tonight. That said, this defense just continues to give you an opportunity. Look, it's not always going to be pretty, and with no TJ Watt, it makes it a lot harder. I haven't heard, Highsmith's name, it feels like, since like week 2. But at the end of the day, this defense, which was one of the worst at stopping the run a season ago, still have their issues stopping the run. You saw that tonight. I think Mostert was probably averaging roughly about 6 yards a pop. Mostert ended up averaging 5 yards a carry. At one point, it was like 7 yards a carry, but that came down towards the end when the Steelers knew they were going to run the football. They still have a little bit of an issue stopping the run, but it's not as pronounced as it was last year. But what I've been really impressed with is their ability to defend the pass. With a lot of the injuries that they've had and some of the mixed match parts they've got in the secondary, they've gotten some big performances from some guys back there. And not having TJ Watt, which was supposed to help clean up some of the deficiencies on the back end, it's amazing what they're doing defensively. Minkah Fitzpatrick is a star in this league. That hit he had on Raheem Mostert at the goal line, are you kidding me? Like, this dude here, man, I swear, he has mastered the art of getting his head out of those hits and lighting dudes up. I see more Minkah Fitzpatrick blow up shots over the middle of the football field. He knocked T. Higgins out of the Bengals game. I don't even remember if he was flagged or not for that hit. I think he might have been. This dude is a walking missile. Not to mention a playmaker that gets his hands on the football quite often. He's fun to watch. But Terrell Edmonds right next to him, playing just as good. Had a breakup of a deep ball against Tyreek Hill tonight. He's playing really well back there. I've been really impressed, with what they've been able to piece together defensively to give themselves a chance in a lot of these ball games. They haven't won them, but they had every opportunity to beat New England. They had every opportunity to win tonight. Again, they should have beaten the Jets. They've been in some ball games. So I look at this Steelers team. They're 2-5. They're probably going to end up 6-11, maybe 7-10 this season. But they're fighting their asses off. And I don't know when TJ Watt is going to be back. I don't even know if it's worth him coming back. By the time he's ready, where's the Steelers at in the season, I think should dictate whether they decide to bring him back or not. Honestly speaking, this team isn't going anywhere, whether they've got TJ Watt or not. But tonight was another example of them fighting. After that pick to Javon Holland, I thought the game was over. And for them to get the stop that they needed, get the football back to the offense one final time, and for Kenny Pickett to put them in a position where they might have had 2 or 3 opportunities to take a shot at the end zone. Unfortunately, he throws the pick. Speaks volumes. Speaks volumes as to where this team is from a coaching standpoint. Getting these guys to fight and believe. Wasn't good enough, but says a lot that they were even in this ball game, because this thing could have gotten ugly and probably should have gotten ugly, but it didn't. That's the most important thing. I think one more thing, Kenny Pickett has to do a better job of understanding situationally what's needed from him. That first pick he threw to Javon Holland, that's a 3rd and 14, bro. It's not happening. They're sitting at the sticks. Everybody's eyeballing you, keying QB's eyes and waiting for you to make a mistake, and you made a rookie mistake. You're not at Pitt anymore. You play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, not the Pitt Panthers. You're not throwing that seam ball, or you're not throwing that hook at the sticks against NC State. That's an all Pac-12 performer you're trying to fit that in. That's a standout in the NFL now, waiting on you to make that mistake so he can pick it off. That's a former all Pac-12 standout safety that's now doing it at a high level in the NFL. That's waiting for you to do that. Understand that you're down 6. Pick up 7 yards there. You dump it down to the back, check it down. He gets 5 yards, and you kick a field goal, and now it's 16-13. And you ended up getting the ball once more, and you got all the way down in the field goal range. That's a hell of a throw on that 4th down on that final possession of Pat Freiermuth with the game on the line. That's incomplete. Game's over. It's a hell of a throw. Pickett's a gamer, man. He just situationally doesn't get it right now. That last drive could have been to tie the game to send it to overtime instead of needing a touchdown to win the game. If he hadn't made the mistake on 3rd and 14, just got to understand. You got to live to fight another day. Can't play hero ball. And again, you're not at Pitt anymore. You're not rolling around and rolling out trying to find a receiver 25 yards down the field against Tennessee. And I'm not talking Titans. I'm talking about the Tennessee Vols. This isn't college football anymore, bro. You got to play the game situationally, understand what your team needs from you, and he'll grow into that. But these are the growing pains you have to endure when you have a young quarterback. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. If you're out there, want your comment read, you know how to go about that. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read. We'll get to as many of those as possible. If you want to jump to the front of the line and ensure that your comment gets read, super chats are the way to do that. All right. A sincere review. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. A sincere review writes, "Hey, Lou, honestly, the future tandem of Pickett and Pickens is looking bright." I agree. I really think that George Pickens, he was a steal. We said it on draft night. Those of you who were with me on draft night when the Steelers made that selection on day number 2. I thought Pickens could sneak into the back end of the first round, but I said someone's going to get them if he's healthy. And that was the problem at Georgia. No one ever doubted the talent. We said he's a taller, longer version of A.J. Green. Body contortion, big play, catches, ridiculous catch radius. Like, we saw the crazy catches at Georgia. It was all about health. And if he was healthy, someone was getting themselves potentially a number 1 wide receiver in the second round. And he looks damn good. Overall, Pickett is just going through his growing pains. I agree. Like, situationally, he's got to understand. 3rd and 14, dude, you're not getting this first down. Take whatever they're giving you. You're in field goal range. Get the field goal. Cut it to a 3-point game and give yourself a chance. Again, these are the growing pains that you go through. These are definitely some of the growing pains. But I do like that connection. That's a hell of a catch he made, getting both feet down right before the half by George Pickens. We've seen those plays he's made all season long. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, it's analytic because you get anal if you follow them. You only follow them. I think that's what that says. I mean, analytics, there's a purpose that they serve. And I'm not, I'm not the biggest analytics guy. However, I do understand the purpose that they serve, in that it's good to have statistics. It's good to have the numbers. Numbers do tell a story. So I think analytics makes a lot more sense in baseball, personally. I'm facing a guy. This is the 9th time that I've faced this hitter. He's one for 8 against me, with 4 Ks. And here's how I got him out. I threw, 72% off speed, 28% fastballs. Of the 28 fastballs, 14, were cutters. And so, like, these little intricate details, and I got him out, strike 3 on 2 cutters. Like, these are great statistics to have. He likes to chase, high in the zone. Yeah, analytics to me in baseball are absolutely fantastic. Not so much in the NFL. I'm not the biggest fan. And it's 16-10. Analytics might tell you, hey, go for it. What do if you can pick up this first down, it will increase your chances of winning this football game by 4%. Whoop did he do? I know what I'm thinking. I'm playing the worst scoring offense in football. I'm already up 6. If I connect on this field goal, we're up 9 and they're now down 2 possessions. For a team that struggles to score on a consistent basis, week in and week out, 19 points, or in this case, a 2-score game, is tough sledding for them. Joshua Drake, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. Mob, you know what to do. Show Joshua Drake some love. Welcome him with open arms. Looking forward to chopping it up with you, Joshua. Greatly appreciate you for blessing us with your presence. And all I can say now is welcome to the squad. So glad to have you. All right. So Kevin, the PRF, I got your messages. You sent them to the wrong IG account. That's why I didn't see them. But I found them. And what I'll do is on tomorrow's show, I will post those comments. I will read them. We will go through them on the Washington show. So I appreciate you. Some of the comments I had already read, but there were quite a few, and a few new members that I didn't see that I definitely want to acknowledge. So thank you for that, Kevin the PRF. Thank you for that as well, Condo P. You guys are always all over that and on top of those things. So, that said, let's get to the comment section. And we start with HTTR Carson, who writes, I was just thinking, Lou, the fact that this year's 3-4 start is the best start through 7 games Ron has had here in DC is disgusting. I didn't think he was going there, but it is disgusting. He says, goes to show how poorly this franchise starts seasons. And that has definitely been the case with Ron. I mean, I've laid that out. I mean, we started 1-5 his first year, and last year we started 2-6. You know, we started 2-2, but then obviously it went off the rails. We lost 4 straight and went into our bye week. Feel like the season was over. Come out of the bye, somehow beat Tampa Bay, and then got hot, won 4 in a row, and we were back to 6-6. Big game at home against Dallas to kick off 5 straight against NFC East opponents, and we know how that went. And so, yeah, you know, it's amazing that 1 game under 500 after 7 weeks of ball is the best that Ron has done here in Washington in his 3 years. But I mean, it is what it is. He's notoriously started slow in his career, not just here in Washington, but going back to his Carolina days. He's a notorious slow starter. And for whatever reason, his teams get better as the season progresses, which is usually a great sign that, you know, the coaching staff is starting to get through to their players and teams. You know, it's usually a sign of good coaching when your team gets better as the year progresses. But there's also something to be said about slow starts. You got to be able to have your team ready to start seasons and find ways to win and get your message across sooner. But that hasn't been the case in his career. But I can tell you this, I'm excited that we're 3-4. After starting 1-4, I'd be lying to you if I said I knew we were going to be here after losing to the Titans. That felt like a crippling loss. But 2 weeks later, we're 3-4, 1 game away from 500, and it just makes that Tennessee Titans game. I hate to keep bringing that up, but it just makes that Tennessee Titans game that much more hurtful that we didn't get that game, you know, done, because we could easily be a game over 500 right now. Gregory Lightbody writes, how worried are you about the Colts next week with Leonard coming back? Very. I mean, first of all, we're not a good team yet. So am I worried about the Colts? You're damn right I'm worried about the Colts. Why wouldn't I be worried about the Indianapolis Colts? I'm worried about every team in the league. I'm worried about the Houston Texans. I'm worried about the Atlanta Falcons. I'm worried about every single team on our schedule, because we're by far and away the worst team in our division, and we're a work in progress. We got a long way to go. And so our offense made mistakes today. Our defense made some mistakes today. Our special teams made another blunder, you know, with a missed kick. I mean, we got a lot of work to do. We threw a pick 6 today. You know, our quarterback threw a pick 6 and almost had a fumble, scoop, and score, if not for a penalty that negated it. Like, it's a lot of stuff to clean up. And yeah, you damn right, Darius Leonard or Shaquille Leonard makes a big difference. He forces so many turnovers and fumbles. And yeah, I'm definitely nervous about the Colts next week. But I'm also excited about the opportunity, because much like us, they're a middling football team that in any given week could play terrible football. They were absolutely horrendous today. They were really good last week. Matt Ryan was out of his mind last week. The week before that, they were absolutely horrid, but they somehow came away with the 12-9 win. The week before that, they were equally as garbage. You know, got mopped up by the Tennessee Titans. Well, they didn't get mopped up. That's not fair. They lost to the Titans. And then the week before that, they got destroyed by the Jacksonville Jaguars before, you know, beating the Chiefs. So you don't know what Colts team is going to show up. But I like my chances. I'll say that much. Metaphor. This game is insignificant because the champs are here. Commanders ready to play. Okay. Joshua Drake, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Once again, thank you for becoming a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, I know I'm late, but how about the Commanders? How about them Commanders today? I mean, it feels good to win, man. I can't lie about that. He says, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. He says, I saw Tua underthrow some passes to Tyreek, but it's his first game back. He did underthrow some passes, but I don't think that has anything to do with his first game back. I just think it's going to be like that sometimes. You know, Tyreek is a super fast dude. Tua doesn't have the biggest arm. So it's going to be some times where, you know, he doesn't quite get it out there. In order for Tua to be on the money, what he's going to have to ultimately do is he's going to have to anticipate better on those deep throws. You can't wait till Tyreek Hill is already 45 yards down the field before you let it go. Your arm strength isn't good enough to get it there if you do that. You know, by the time he's at 25 yards and he does one of these numbers, or you see him getting a step, or he's even, you know he's leaving, you got to let it go. He's got to figure that out, though. He's got to figure that out and be better and anticipate better. Metaphor writes, here, Terry, post-game presser. You know, I haven't watched anything. That's what I do after this show. As I go back, I listen to everybody speak, kind of, you know, unwind and, you know, see what the fellas have to say. And so I'll be doing that after I'm done here. So, no, I didn't hear anything that was said. He says, made it evident that Carson is there helping lead and support TLH during the game. Vibe that he knows who's back when ready. Like I said, it's too early to determine who's going to be what moving forward. I think the assumption right now is that Carson, when healthy, is the starting quarterback. And again, it's easy to say that right now, sitting here at 3-4, one game into a 4-game, bare minimum of 4 games that Wentz will miss. But as we get closer and closer to the time where he's supposed to be back and eligible to come off of IR, and this team is winning football games, it's going to be incredibly hard for them to go back to Carson Wentz. They still may ultimately do it, but it becomes a much tougher decision. Again, Heineke is in total control over, you know, helping change that narrative. Now, it's ultimately not his decision. He could play lights out ball. We could win 4 straight, and they could still decide to go back to Carson Wentz. All he can do is make the decision tough on the coaching staff. That's all he can do. I think Heineke has a chance to win over the locker room again, and this time really give them a chance to feel like we can do something with him. Last year, it was cool, but he was more of a passenger. He's got a chance to be not only driving the bus, but really this schedule is really doable. Like they just paid Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay Packers, and it's not the Aaron Rodgers that we've come to know and love, but we just played the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. That's the toughest quarterback we had left on the schedule, just as an aside. We might get Deshaun Watson late in the season with the Browns. They'll probably be out of it by then, and they may decide just not even to play him. I'm pretty sure they're going to play him just so he can get reps and get some, you know, snaps under his belt and get his feet wet so that next year you don't have to worry about him having not played essentially in, you know, 2 full seasons or whatever. But he won't be the Deshaun Watson of old by the time we get to him. You know, he'll still be feeling the process out and getting comfortable. It'll make it tougher than having Jacoby Brissett. But Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback that we'll face this season. And we just beat him. Our schedule is littered with Marcus Mariotas and we got another Hurts and a couple of Daks if he's healthy, a couple of Daniel Joneses, Jimmy Garoppolo, as I just mentioned, Deshaun Watson. We got the Davis Mills, like Kirk Cousins. This is what's left on the schedule, and Matt Ryan. He's not playing murderer's row like he did last year. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. But it's going to be interesting. It's real early in the process to say what's what. Amar, 2 times official, says, looking at how deep Miami is at corner, if only we well, I can tell you the Dolphins spent a lot of resources to be that deep at corner. I remember saying, man, this is overkill. When they drafted Noah Igbenogany at the back end of the first round, that was one year where they had like 3 first-round picks. And they drafted Noah Igbenogany like 30th overall. And I'm thinking, bro, didn't you just sign Byron Jones and Xavier Howard to big deals? Don't you got like 15 corners already on your team? But they never stopped drafting corners. And I've always said, defensively, there are 2 positions in particular where you can never draft enough. That's edge rusher and cornerback. You can never have enough bodies on the D line, and you can never have enough corners. Never. And the Dolphins definitely believe in that. So even though they've got injuries, I'll take it a step further. Their safety, they got safety depth as well. Like they got a ton of stuff back there, man. Like Brandon Jones is probably a second, third year safety. Javon Holland is a second year safety. Those dudes are dogs. You saw Holland make a play tonight. Jones unfortunately got hurt. But, you know, they got dogs back there, man. So, yeah. Amar, 2 times official, writes, Pitt offense looking just like it did last year. Yeah. I think last year it was a little bit better. Not by much, but just the experience of Roethlisberger, even though he looked like, as my guy Reed would say, a old uncle on that was stuffed from Thanksgiving dinner out in the backyard playing with his nephews. That's what he looked like last year. Looked like he had a whole entire fridge on his back. But he still was Ben Roethlisberger. Still could dissect an NFL defense and get the football where it needed to go pronto. It's the process for Kenny Pickett. But I've liked, despite the turnovers and the mistakes, I've actually liked what I've seen from Kenny Pickett to this point. Still would like them to run the football more effectively, though. The run game was atrocious last year. At least it looks like there's a semblance of a run game this year, unlike last year. Amar, 2 times official, writes, does West come off IR this week? Still want him starting over Norwell. I think he's got 1 more week on IR, if I'm not mistaken. I think he got hurt in the Eagles game playing center. Remember, he had a bunch of bad snaps in that game, got injured, and we had to deal with Nick Martin for 2 weeks, the first of which was Dallas, and then the following week against no, I don't think he was just Dallas. Nope. It was Dallas and Tennessee. And then we got I feel like we got Tyler Larson back against the Bears on Thursday Night Football, I think. I could be wrong about that. But if West was out and they put him on IR after that Eagles game, which was week number 3, yeah, he should be eligible for reinstatement this week off of IR. Yeah, I think you're right, actually, because he would have been on IR, missed the 4th game, 5th, 6th, 7th game, and now he's able to be eligible. I don't think they're making any more changes to the offensive line. They've just gotten into some sort of rhythm. There's a continuity that's forming. I don't think they're going to move any of the pieces that are there now, other than when Sam Cosmi is ready to come back, they're going to insert him back at right tackle. That's it. I don't think they're going to really play around with the interior anymore. They're going to leave it as is for now. But it's good to know that if any injury on the interior is to happen, and we've been really fortunate that nothing has happened since Wes has gotten injured. But if anything is to occur, Wes Schweitzer is able to come in. So that's reassuring. But I pray that nothing happens, particularly at center. Like, let's just leave. Larson's playing really good. Let's just leave him there, please. Okay. HTTR Carson writes, Terry getting in front of Jair and grabbing that thing is some dog-like shit. He's so underrated. I think we know how good he is. Unfortunately, non-Washington fans may not be aware. I think the NFC East fans understand the worth of Terry McLaurin. I think Cowboys fans think he sucks or doesn't think he's as good as he is or doesn't respect him the way that they should because they think their guy locks him down every time they play. But we've seen instances of him being open and balls being underthrown and things of that nature. And I can't tell you, the first game this season when we played Dallas, I can't tell you how many times Trayvon Diggs got away with, the tugging of the jersey, the pulling of the hip, all kinds of foolishness. And that was one of the worst one-sided officiated games of the season for Washington. That was a mess and a travesty. So, yeah, he's not underrated to us. He's underrated to those who just don't know. Amar, 2 times official, writes, Herbert is regressing this year, but no one wants to admit it. I just don't think that's fair. I don't think he has a ton of weapons, but forget about that because he's done more with less before. You got to remember this dude's playing with cracked ribs. So I didn't watch the game, so I can't tell you. But dude's playing with cracked ribs. He's compromised. He's out there giving it what he's got, but they're struggling offensively because there's no Keenan Allen, and they don't really have any true dynamic weapons. Like they failed him in that department, if we're being honest with one another. And he's banged up too, but they got to be better. No excuses in terms of, look, he's playing. It is what it is. He's got to be better. I think the other 31 teams around the league that don't have, a guy not named Allen or Mahomes or, Rodgers or Burrow or one of those dudes, I think the other teams would take Justin Herbert. I know we would in a heartbeat. I know the teams that don't have a guy, that could use one would take him in a heartbeat. So I don't know about whether he's regressing or not. I just know they got some issues, and he's far from any, one of the issues. If he is one, he ain't near the top of the list. Way down the list of issues. That's for sure. I'll say that. Kevin the PRF, thank you for the comment, who writes, how do you fire your coach, trade away your best player, trade away your second best wide receiver, and start essentially a third string QB and stomp a mud hole in the Bucs? It's funny. I'm going to read you a comment that my guy resent me, and I hope he isn't upset that I'm going to read this comment because obviously he DM'd me, so he didn't want this out to the masses. He just was talking to me, but I didn't. He actually sent me another one today, but he said, don't let the 3-3. This was last weekend when they lost to the Steelers. He said, don't let the 3-3 fool you, Lou. The Bucs are the worst team in football. I sent back a laughing emoji because I'm like, this is foolishness, and I love my guy Reed, but that's his move. He gets really down on his team when they struggle. There's no in between with him. Usually he's at one end of the spectrum or the other. So he says, I say to him after that comment, impossible. You are frustrated, but they are far from the worst team. Trust me. And I'm speaking from experience because my team is way worse than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This was last week. We just had beaten the Bears 12-7 in one of the worst games of the season. You can't be the worst team in the league. There's the Panthers. And I was saying that they got their asses whooped by those same Panthers. But there's the Panthers, and there's the Texans, and there's Washington, and, there's the Indianapolis Colts and the Denver Broncos. There are all these bad teams. Trust me, you're not the worst, right? Says, Lou, we couldn't beat a bad team with 5 starters out on defense and a backup quarterback. Touche. He said, we are not a good football team. The Steelers can't lose to the Bills 38-3 and completely outclass the Buccaneers. This team is not good and the coaching is miserable. This is not how Tom Brady wants to go out. He says, what I tell you, Lou, this is from today now. Those comments were from last week after the game. This is from today. He said, what I tell you, Lou, worst team in football. No one has played as bad as us since week 3. I'm going to go ahead and react to that comment now. So my guy Ree sent me that. First of all, you know as well as I do, the first thing you start with is that's family business. If that's not your family business, then you need to keep your nose out of business that doesn't pertain to you. So you know right off the bat, anything goes when it's a divisional game. Now, granted, if you're that team, I don't care that it's family business. If you're trashed, I'm going to destroy you. I mean, that the Patriots have made a living destroying the bottom feeders of the AFC East for years when Brady was there, and it didn't matter that it was family business. Yeah, there would be years the Jets stunk and they would still play the Patriots tough, but the Patriots would find a way to win normally. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is the Buccaneers are struggling right now, and this football thing is so fickle. You know, one week you're up, the next week you're down, and it's just crazy how this goes. The ebb and flows of a game, the ebb and flows of a season. It's just weird. And I know some of you don't have enough mental capacity or space to recall something that happened, you know, last week, let alone 2 years ago. But remember when Brady first got to Tampa Bay? They struggled in that first year. A lot of people forget that. They struggled that year. They were not a great team. They got hot late playing bad football teams, and they took that confidence that they build playing the teams, the likes of the Lions and the Panthers and the Falcons and bad teams like that down the stretch, scoring a boatload of points against all these teams. They took that momentum that they built, beating up bad football teams, and they steamrolled into the playoffs, got hot at the right time, and won the whole thing. But they weren't a good team for much of that year. Kind of feels like that now. But now they're struggling against teams that you just got to find a way to win against. Doesn't have to be pretty. You got to find a way to beat the Steelers. You got to find a way to beat the Panthers. And they didn't just lose to the Panthers. They got their asses handed to them. And again, I haven't watched the game, but I did see a highlight of on the first possession, Mike Evans dropping a wide open. I mean, I don't think he's ever been that wide open in his career. And he dropped the football. And it would have been a walk-in touchdown from I don't know how far out, but it would look like it was every bit of, 55, 60 yards out. Drops the football. It reminded me of week 1, Packers and Vikings. Rodgers going up top to the rookie Christian Watson, and he drops the football. And it would have been a touchdown on the opening possession of the game for the Packers, and they never, ever rebounded from that. Lost that game like 24-7, maybe 6. Never rebounded from it. Same thing that happened to the Bucs in this game. He catches that touchdown. It changed. The Panthers go, here we go again. Instead, he drops it, and they say, hey, why not go have a day? Why not us today? The league is weird. Just understand that. T-Wise or Twice. Go either way. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, good to see you still going at it. HTTR. I wonder if that is who I think it is. If it is, what's up? Good to hear from you. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Metaphor. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Tom and Aaron conspired to throw season at golf tourney. Nah. They did that golf tournament, the thing they did with Barkley and all those dudes. That they do. I think Rodgers, this was his first year being a part of that, but Brady's been doing it for like 2 or 3 years now. I think the first year, didn't Josh Allen do it one year? I think he did it one time with them. Or am I tripping? I don't know. I mean, they haven't conspired to do anything. Did you see Aaron Rodgers' press conference? I caught a little bit of that. I mean, sounds like they're going to try to, they sounds like for the first time in a long time, the Packers will be a significant underdog. No one's going to give them a chance. He's right about that. He said that. And he said, maybe this is what we need. Bills are coming off their bye week. They're a hot team at Sunday Night Football. We're going to their place. No one's going to give us a chance. Maybe this is what we need. It's hard being the hunter all the time. The hunted, excuse me. It's hard, which is what the Packers have been for the better part of the last decade and a half. When Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they're the hunted. They're the class of their division. You're going to get everybody's best punch because you're a measuring stick game for every other team in the league. It's tough to get up every single week. Losing Davante Adams, we knew was going to have an impact. Could we have imagined that it was going to have this much of an impact? Probably not. But I told you when they did what they did in the draft that this was going to catch up with them. I thought that they didn't do a good enough job of getting veterans, just to adding Samuel Watkins, who's always injured. Not good enough. Got to find a better veteran receiver to bring in there, someone that's a little bit more reliable. And I thought that they didn't do enough in the draft. They had a chance. They had 2 first-round picks. And it's not like they got garbage players. They got Devontae Wyatt, and they got the linebacker from Georgia. I said that right. They got 2 Georgia Bulldog players. And Quay Walker. And I didn't have a problem with either one of the selections other than the fact that that's cool, but you had a chance to get Aaron Rodgers a real threat at receiver in a deep wide receiver draft class. And I guess the prevailing thought was, if it's deep, then I don't need to pick one in the first round. I thought they should have been more aggressive in the draft to get Rodgers. If you're not going to take a first-round receiver, fine. Take 2 in the second or 1 in the second, 1 in the third. And they decided to go 1 in the second and then like a dude in the 5th and then another dude in like the 7th. Okay. Cool. I hope it works out. And those guys may ultimately turn into studs. But understand where you are. This isn't Aaron Rodgers 7 years ago, or hell, even, 6 years ago when you drafted Davante Adams and you could spend a second-round pick and allow him to develop. This is Aaron Rodgers at 80 years old with not a lot of football left, with the Super Bowl window rapidly closing. You had a chance the last 3 years, 2 in particular, with home field advantage throughout in the NFC, and you've blown it. You don't have many more opportunities. You lost your best receiver. Your window is probably shut at this point. And you go out and get young guys at receiver, and you think that's going to make you better now? Yeah, those guys may ultimately develop and be good for you 3 years from now. You don't have 3 years. You got Aaron Rodgers ready to win now. I thought they made some mistakes this offseason. So I don't think it's about throwing anything. And I know you were joking, but I just think those 2 teams in particular aren't playing well. The Bucs have dealt with some injuries. And I really, truly believe, and you heard my guy Reese say this, it's coaching. I think Todd Bowles is one of those dudes that's not supposed to be a head coach. I think he's more suited to be a coordinator. And look, he might actually be a really good coach in a different situation. I don't think he's made for this situation. Why? Because you went from no risk it, no biscuit, and the cool cat with the Kango to match, and Uncle Bruce, who's a hard ass and a stickler for doing it the right way, and he doesn't really care who's effing up. He's going to let you know about it, which is why I think he rubbed Tom Brady the wrong way and why Brady was going to retire. And then when he came back, Brady's like, yeah, I'll come back, but only on the one stipulation. And he can't be the head coach. And I don't know that. I can't say that for certain. I can't confirm nor deny that. But it just, all of it seemed odd this summer. If Brady retires, it looks like Uncle Bruce is going to remain head coach. Brady decides he wants to play, and all of a sudden Uncle Bruce doesn't want to coach anymore. Or Uncle Bruce retires, and then Brady mysteriously is back in the saddle. There's just too many moving parts there for it to be coincidental. But at the end of the day, I don't know if Todd Bowles' temperament and his philosophy, because there's a lot of running of the football. I don't know if it necessarily suits this Buccaneers football team. That said, they got to play better too. Mike Evans can't drop a wide open touchdown pass. They got to play better. We can sit here and talk about the coaching staff. We can talk about who is there, who isn't there. We can talk about these injuries. They got a bunch of them. They just got to make plays too. They miss Gronk. It's a lot of stuff there, but they got to be better. So, Amar 2x official. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes super chat? How's your day, Lou? Lou, I don't know. Luck. Hey, you just never know, man. Dude is always lurking around a corner trying to get you. And like somebody said, hey, he really got you because you shook. That may be the case, but I'm on high alert. It's just the way I operate now. Just is what it is. Mike Stevenson, the second. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, good win, big dog. Sad Wentz not playing in Philly. Look, it's all good. And everything happens for a reason. It's for the best for the Eagles. I mean, I wish he were still in Philadelphia, even though he used to kick our ass. I wanted him to still be in Philadelphia because he was struggling, But you moved on to what seems like greener pastures. You're winning ball games. You're undefeated. It's not a lot to be, upset or complaining about in Philly. I appreciate the congratulatory super. It was definitely a win we had to have. Had to have it. I'm glad we caught the Packers early while they're struggling, because 3 weeks from now they might have gotten their shit together. They could be a totally different team when they play Dallas in like 3 weeks. Totally different team than the one that was struggling and couldn't score points. Remember the Chiefs last year? I don't know if they ever fully got their act together, but remember there was that one stretch during the season where they were getting their asses handed to them, got blown out by the Titans and beat up by Buffalo on a Sunday night. They were struggling. And if you caught them in that little stretch, you had a shot. We had a shot against them last year. Then later on in the season, they were scoring points and they were back to normal. And it was like, damn, had a shot. That's gone. I'm glad we got ours out of the way, personally. Fat American. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American writes, yo, Lou, one thing I just caught on one of B-Rob's runs, number 10 sprints to go lead block when B-Rob runs outside. Nice seeing the O play for each other. I've never really had any gripes with any of the players not hustling, or I don't think that's ever been a thing in Washington. I felt like all the guys have given great effort. I've never questioned our guys' effort. I've questioned playmaking ability, but I've never questioned effort, especially offensively. There have been times when I've questioned defensive intensity and effort and guys flying to the football, 11 hats, en route to some pain. There have been times where I've done that, but I don't really ever recall questioning the effort of the players. So I'm not shocked to see guys trying to make blocks and do things like that down the field. Uncle Fester. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Uncle Fester. Right. I think our running backs and wide receivers are good groups. Tight end too. There's a lot of promise with those groups. Offensively, there's a lot to like with our football team. And we're seeing our depth be tested at those positions, specifically receiver and tight end, and we still got stuff. Amani Rogers stepped up today in the absence of no Logan Thomas, and then Cole Turner gets hurt, and John Bates was banged up as well, and Amani Rogers stepped up. Alex Armo was active. He made a big block late in the ball game, even though we didn't get the first down. He made a big block to set up a third and short. So we're deep, pretty deep at tight end and receiver. No De'Ami Brown, no Jahan Dotson. All right, Cam Sims, step up. Dax Milne had a catch today. Cam Sims had a catch today. And, you just keep the party going. So it was good to see. Uncle Fester, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Uncle Fester writes, Ron definitely got guys who hustle and play hard. Davis. Like I said, they're not going to quit on Ron. I've made that abundantly clear. Like a lot of fans were down on Ron, and I was one of them. But this was the thing that I never questioned. I said they won't, like, people talking about tanking this, that, and the third. I'm like, they'll never quit on Ron. You just won't see it. No Carolina Panthers team, no matter how bad they were, they never quit on Ron. Every year he's been in Washington, there's been one consistent theme that I've repeated over and over again, which is, hey, this team might not be this, or they might not be that. They may not be good. They may not be this. They may not be that. But they're not going to quit. We've been down in a ton of ball games, and we always fight back. Don't always win, but we fight back. I said, these guys aren't going to quit on Ron. And you're seeing that. Mike Stevenson the second. Double up. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, sad he's not playing against us in week 10. He's on IR. I'm not sad he's not playing against the Eagles, because I thought that was going to be too much for him to handle mentally. What I've realized about Wentz is I don't think he's mentally as tough as you would like him to be. You hit him enough early in the game and he gets rattled, and he's not the same quarterback. I can tell you right now, he's not the same quarterback. When he got hurt against Chicago, he wasn't the same quarterback that he was in week 1 or the week 2 game, for that matter, against Detroit in the second half. He wasn't the same guy because he got beat up in week 3, week 4, and by week 5, he was seeing ghosts. So, and he actually didn't play poorly in week 5, to be honest with you. But he definitely was seeing ghosts in week 6 against Chicago before he hurt his finger. He was terrible. So, I don't know if he would have played well against them. It would have made for a great storyline. The media would have eaten it up for Monday night game. I know we would have been talking about it. It would have been a fun little point of emphasis, in a big storyline, but he wouldn't have given us the best chance to win that night. Just like, I don't know, him going back to Indy might have been a big deal. Maybe too big for him to go in there and play well. Who's to say? Uncle Fester, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, skill positions on good O-line is it just Norwell bad? No, it wasn't just Norwell bad. We were on our 4th starting center. We've had to play musical chairs at guard. This is our 2nd starting, right tackle. So we've had a lot of moving parts on the offensive line, not a lot of continuity. And so the O-line they're getting better. I'll say that. They're getting better. Uncle Fester, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, as far as the D-line goes, they've been remarkable. Do you credit the new D-line coach and Kerrigan for this change? Excites me for Chase Young. I do. I think credit needs to be given to Kerrigan and Jeff Skanina, the new defensive line coach. They definitely rush with more of a plan and more as one, which is what we heard from Warren Sapp that needed to happen. I think that's where a lot of the credit needs to go, for sure. Don't discount the guys on the field who are actually getting the job done. These are some really talented dudes, but they're definitely rushing as one. And I am anxious to see, we've heard a lot about Chase Young, how much he's learned since he's been out. working on technique and things of that nature, having to resharpen some of the other tools now that you can't just rely on sheer, athleticism. And I think he feels like he should be able to do a lot of the things that he could do before the injury. But I think maybe this might have shown him that technique is very important as well. That's what you hope, at least. So I'm interested to see what he does when he comes back. But Uncle Fester, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, how would you quick fix the O-line? Cosme the left guard. Yeah, we talked about that, a while back. That would be the missing piece, but I don't see them doing that. They played around with that idea, but I don't see them doing it. Because they drafted him to be a tackle. So I don't think they want to play around with him at guard. But if they have to, they will. I don't think they have to, so I don't think they will. All right. We'll take this last comment from Hank Midas, and then we'll get out of here. I'll take one from Hassan Moore as well. Hank Midas writes, what is holding back the Chargers? They seem off offensively and defensively. Well, I don't necessarily love their coach. You guys know how I feel about Brandon Staley. It's not just him, but I do think he's a part of the problem. Offensively, they're missing Keenan Allen. I don't know if he played today. I'll check and see. I saw 0 snaps of that game. Don't know what happened. I just know that the Chargers, the Seahawks have been one of the best offenses in football this year. Geno Smith is playing out of his mind, and it's one of the best stories of the league this year. Keenan Allen was back this week, but only 2 catches for 11 yards. So they've got to reacclimate him. Like, Austin Eckler can't have 12 catches for 96 yards. Like, that means it was check down city. And it could have been a byproduct of what Seattle was doing from a coverage standpoint, taking away anything vertical and forcing them to go underneath. I'd have to watch the game, but that's a lot of catches for Austin Eckler underneath. That's way too many. So clearly they weren't pushing the football down the field, and they've become very reliant upon Austin Eckler. And they need their receivers to step up. They need their skill guys to step up. When you start relying that heavily on your running back, it becomes a problem for your offense. They don't run it. That's one of their biggest problems. They don't run the football. I don't even need to look at the stats, but I'm going to look at it from today. I guarantee you they didn't run it well. Austin Eckler, 9 carries, 31 yards. That's 3.5 yards per tote. Justin Herbert was their second leading rusher with 3 carries for 22 yards. Sony Michel, 2 carries, 5 yards. And Isaiah Spiller, the rookie out of Texas A&M, got his first playing time of the season. 1 carry, -5 yards. They averaged 3.5 yards a carry in the game on 15 carries. That's not good, just in case you were wondering at home. That's not good. They don't run it well. That's a problem. And they don't stop the run. They couldn't stop it last year. They're struggling to stop it again this year defensively. Let's look at how much. I guarantee you the Seahawks ran the football. They're one of the better rushing teams in the league. Kenneth Walker III, the kid out of Michigan State that we all talked about, he's probably going to be good. 23 carries, 168 yards, 7 a pop, almost 7.5 yards per carry. Had a 74-yarder in this game as well. DJ Dallas, the backup running back, 6 carries, 35 yards. That's 6 a pop. They gave up 214 yards rushing in this game, did the Chargers, for over 6 yards a tote. That's why they struggle. They don't stop the run. They don't run it well. And so many things can come off of the run game. Hassan Moore, thank you for the super chat. And don't forget the Chargers are banged up too. They had, if I'm not mistaken, I think Mike Williams got hurt in the game today. Their corner that they went out and paid money for from New England, he got hurt again today. Remember, he had the ankle surgery right before the season started, so he wasn't really 100% to begin with. But that's been a disappointment for them. Then, Joey Bosa is out. Their left tackle is out for the season. They got a bunch of injuries, man. So there's a lot wrong with the Chargers. It's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of stuff, honestly. Assan Moore, right? Steelers need to get Pickens more involved. Dude is a stud. I agree. I think he needs more opportunities, and I think that goes back to the offensive coordinator. I think they have to get the receivers more involved, period. I mean, let's look at the output of the receivers in tonight's game. And I don't know if tonight's a great barometer or not, but felt like the receivers they're not as involved. I think it's more of the tight ends and the running backs catching it out of the backfield. Let's see. Pat Freiermuth had the second most targets. He had 9, 8 catches, 75 yards. Not a bad guy to go to. Pickens 6 for 61 on 6 targets. So every time he had the ball thrown in his direction, he caught it, including the touchdown grab. Deontay Johnson, 10 targets, 5 catches, 42 yards. He has to play better. Chase Claypool, 8 targets, 5 catches, 41 yards. I think he needs to play better as well. Like, those are the 2 guys that I really think need to step up, personally. And it's not just them. The quarterback has to give them catchable footballs. The targets number can be misleading because you could throw the ball out of bounds and that guy could just be the closest guy to the ball going out of bounds, and they consider that a target. Anyway, I agree. Pickens needs more opportunities for sure. All right. Amar, 2 times official. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, if there were no more wins this year, what would you do at quarterback next year? It just all depends on how the rest of the season plays out. I mean, if there's no more wins, that's probably because Taylor Heineke played his ass off. It'd have to be because Heineke played his ass off. There's no other way Wentz wouldn't be back and playing under center. So, yeah. It just depends on how it plays out, because if you don't see Sam Howell at all this year, then there's still the intrigue of Sam Howell on the roster, and maybe he's the quarterback of the future. I don't think that should prohibit you from drafting a quarterback if you're in a position to get one and you really like a guy. I don't think that should stop you from taking it, but it makes you less desperate is what it does. However, the likelihood is if Wentz doesn't play, regardless of whether he plays or not, I think they're still looking for a quarterback next year. Personally, whether that guy's already on the roster in the form of Sam Howell, or they're looking to draft a guy, or they're looking to trade for somebody in free agency again, I surmise that they're going to be in the market for a quarterback again next year. Personally. Uncle Fester, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Cosme over Norwell at left guard. Lucas stays at right tackle. Correct. If Cosme goes in to left guard, Lucas allows you to do that. If there's no Cornelius Lucas, then Cosme has to go back to right tackle. But I don't see them playing around with the interior. I think they're gonna leave it the way it is. And Cosme, when he's ready, they'll reinsert him at right tackle. That's how I think it's gonna go. Uncle Fester, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, my bad, Lou, for all these super chats. Rest up, homie. No need to apologize, man. I'm here. I'm good. I've had a long weekend. I am a little tired, but it has nothing to do with anything. Like I'm here. I'm not like falling asleep or dozing off or anything. There are times where I'm literally talking to you guys and my eyes are open, but I am asleep. This is not one of those times. I'm good. Like I'm fine. So you can keep them coming. Uncle Fester says, sorry for not letting you sleep, Lou. My bad. As you super chat again. Which I'm joking. Like, you don't have to stop, but that's funny. Uncle Fester. He says, I'll stop so you can sleep now, Lou. All right, man. Uncle Fester, again, thank you for the super chat rights. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, bro. Take it easy. Stay up, bro. Good night. That's from Uncle Fester again. Uncle Fester one more time says, sweet dreams. Thank you for the super chat again, Uncle Fester. Greatly appreciate you. Uncle Fester, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, shout out to 2005. Where would we be without a Fat American 2005 reference? Or in this case, Uncle Fester. Couldn't go the full day without it. Gotta have it. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. Big win for the Miami Dolphins. They get it done 16-10. They go to 4-3, snap a 3-game skid in the process. Meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Steelers dropped to 2-5. And, look, the rest of this season is all about the development of Kenny Pickett. Look, you're not going to win a ton of games, and that's okay. You just want to see Kenny Pickett continue to get better and better and better and grow with these players, have continuity, begin to build, and start to see some light at the end of the tunnel. Another 3 interception game. Shit can get dark sometimes when you got a young guy, when you're taking your lumps. But I like what I see out of Pickett. I like his athleticism. I like his ability to put the football on some of these receivers. I think they got something here with this kid. I just want to see them protect him a little bit better. And I think the best way to do that is with the run game. And unfortunately, they're very inconsistent in that department. But that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. You guys have a great night. I will see you tomorrow for Monday Night Football. That is not a game that I think any of us are really looking forward to. Bears at Patriots. We'll meet for the conclusion of that. If you're a Washington fan, celebrate! It's Victory Monday. We're going to enjoy. And then we're not going to stay too long because we got to turn our attention to the Indianapolis Colts and see if we can't make it 3 in a row and get back to 500 on the season. Until next time, you guys have a great night. God bless and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.